Hey, what's up? I am Rob Judge, and I want to share the 10 commandments of text game. These 10 commandments are concepts and big ideas that are absolutely essential to crafting attractive text. These sort of messages that leave a woman wanting more. And if you want more examples, as well as dozens of specific word-for-word text that demonstrate these 10 commandments in action, stick around to the end because I just finished drafting a PDF report that right now I'm giving away for free. So it might be for a limited time though, but we'll get to that in a minute. For now, let's get to the 10 commandments of text game. Commandment 1, start simple. Early on, you want to make it easy for her to respond. Now, that's not just a catchy rhyme. It's actually the formula to getting conversations off the ground when you're communicating with women on text. When you first start exchanging messages with a woman, whether it's a girl you met in real life, or maybe it's a woman that you match with on a dating app, the only thing that really matters is answering the question, is she responding, right? That might sound obvious, but most guys, they end up asking too much too soon. When you're in those early stages, you want to make it as easy as possible for a woman to respond to your messages. She shouldn't have to think too hard or write too much to get back to you. Now, one way to do this is by asking close-ended questions, something that can be answered with a simple yes or no. And as a quick example, back when I used to live in Vegas, when I would match with a woman on a dating app, a question I'd ask almost all the time, very early on in the interaction, was something as simple as, so are you local or are you just visiting? Now look, there's nothing magic or mind-blowing about the message itself other than the sheer simplicity of it. Remember, we live in this age of digital distraction, and attractive women are just constantly being bombarded by messages from guys from all over different platforms and dating apps, just inundated with messages. So if you send her this broad, open-ended question, then if you're asking her to give it more attention or more thought than she's willing to give a guy that she just met, you're putting the whole interaction at risk. Instead, start small, start easy. Once you've established some rapport and she's in the habit of replying to your messages, that's when you can build towards more thought-provoking, open-ended questions. Think of it like textual foreplay. Treat the opening text with a woman as an opening act, and then that sets the stage for more meaningful conversation and banter later. In fact, that is the perfect segue to the next commandment. Commandment 2, if you challenge, she will chase. Trying to attract a woman without challenging her is like trying to light a match underwater. The only way to spark her interest is to create some tension, some friction. And you do that by making yourself a challenge. Most guys, they take the opposite approach, right? They bend over backwards to make it easy for a woman. They're always agreeable. They're always accommodating. These are the guys that are off chasing one woman after the next, yet these are also the guys that never seem to catch any. Don't be another simp. Instead, challenge a woman whenever you can. Now, that doesn't simply mean disagreeing or arguing with her, right? Instead, a challenge can be anything that gets a woman to put effort into the interaction. And one of the easiest ways to do that is by being a bit unpredictable, by breaking a pattern, by zigging when she's expecting you to zag. You want to keep her guessing, and that's going to keep her intrigued, and that will keep her wanting more. Commandment 3, it's a question of when, not if. Here's a golden rule that applies not only to texting, but to dating in general. Do not give women unnecessary opportunities to reject you. Guys often insert opportunities for a woman to say no without even realizing it. It's this insidious mistake that almost every guy makes, and it's so easy to avoid. Take as an example, asking a woman out, right? Whenever you ask, you're giving a woman a chance to reject you. A better, more confident approach would be to assume that she wants to go out, so the only question to ask is, when is she free? In business, this is known as assuming the sale. When you assume the date, it shows planning and it shows that you have some confidence, that you had a set of balls. And that's a combination that women love. Women love balls. So the next time you're proposing a date, do not phrase it as a question. Confidence is key. When are we grabbing that drink? Beats, if you're not busy, maybe we could get a drink. Every single time. Take the masculine initiative and flex some confidence, assuming the date is an eventuality. Above all, stop asking for her approval and start offering her exciting opportunities. Commandment 4, it's better to validate than compliment. Flattery is the calling card of the pathetic. If you want to see firsthand, just look at the comment section of an attractive woman's social media. While most guys are smart enough to know not to explain stuff like, marry me, or you're gorgeous, to a woman that they're texting, most guys still make the mistake of paying compliments. Now look, this doesn't mean you can't acknowledge something that you like about her or even that you find attractive about a woman. However, it's better to praise something she does rather than something she is. In other words, praise her for something she actively worked for or deliberately chose rather than something she was just simply born with. It's a difference between paying a compliment and offering validation. For example, praising a woman for her beauty, that's cheap and it's cliche because it's just a worthless compliment. You're telling her you like something about her that she really has no control over, just the way she was born. However, if you recognize something about how she looks, something about maybe like she has a unique style, or maybe you recognize that you like her sense of humor, that validates her, which is way more attractive. In fact, you could take this a step further by adding specificity, which just happens to be the next commandment. Commandment 5, be specific. Let me be blunt and crass so you don't forget this crucial commandment. Specificity fucks, generality sucks. Choosing your words, the more precise you can be, the more power your texts are going to have. Anytime you can drill down and choose a more precise word, do it. For example, watch what happens when I say, picture an animal. Picture an animal with fur. Picture a furry dog. Picture a poodle. I want you to imagine a white, puffy poodle yapping its little fucking head off. See how that works? When you get in the habit of phrasing your text in a way that evokes concrete images, words and descriptions with sensory detail, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, they hijack our imagination. It's mind control that works like magic. Literally. Consider a text like, we should get together sometime. We've all been guilty of sending a text like this at some point, hoping that by, keeping things vague, that will leave all possible options on the table. But if we're being honest here, we're really leaving it up to her to decide, thinking that this is, what women want. They think we're doing her a favor by doing this. But the exact opposite is true. What women really want is a guy who takes the masculine initiative, who leads with a plan. So before you invite a woman out, take a moment and consider the best case scenario. Start by picturing the ideal place, the ideal time, but take it even a step further. Imagining what specifically is going to make this date so good, so memorable. So with that in mind, you could upgrade we should get together sometime with the answers to those questions. So what day, what time, where are you inviting her, and what's going to happen? Now, apply that idea to all your texts, and you have the secret to crafting winning text without even breaking a sweat. Commandment 6, sidestep small talk. One of the most common mistakes that guys make when texting women is they rely on boring, generic small talk questions or platitudes when they claim they're checking in on a woman. Texts like, how's your day going? Or how was your weekend? Or the old white knight classic, text me so I know you got home safe. All these texts are a thinly veiled attempt to maintain contact, but you're disguising it as this sort of cutesy small talk. Rather than being yet another guy who's checking in on her, differentiate yourself by sending her a text that lets her check out whatever is interesting or even just quirky about what you're doing. For example, replace a text like, good morning, I hope you have a great day, by sharing a quirky anecdote about your morning. It could be how you tried to make an omelet and it ended up as scrambled eggs. Very simple. Or it could be how you saw a pigeon with a mohawk in the park. You simply want to give her a glimpse into something colorful or entertaining that happened to you, as if you'd ask yourself the question, hey, how's your morning going? What's the quirkiest or most interesting thing that happened this morning? As you ponder that question, keep this next commandment in mind. Commandment 7, be entertaining, but don't entertain. While you should text women in a way that's colorful, lighthearted, and even humorous, you absolutely do not want to make it seem like you're doing this little comedy routine. In fact, you should avoid any sort of punchline or making it obvious you're trying to make her laugh. On text, attractive humor is subtle humor. So, if you're drafting a text about an observation or a factoid, it can, and probably should, have a playful, colorful tone. But it should not seem like you're telling her some kind of stand-up joke. You never want to make it seem like you're doing this little song and a dance for a woman's entertainment. Guys who do that are trying way too hard to impress and win her approval, which just makes them seem low value. I recently clarified this distinction for a client when he sent a woman 2 texts. First, he wrote, "A bee just landed on my nose at a red light, and we sort of had a moment," which, in my opinion, was a solid and, playful, colorful text. It successfully allowed a woman to glimpse into his world by relating a quirky incident. The problem, however, came when he immediately sent a follow-up text that said, "Be jealous." Adding a punchline is too much. It makes it obvious that you're trying to win her approval by making her laugh. Rather than acting like a king, you're essentially playing the part of the jester or the joker. And with a punchline that isn't even that funny, again, puns are like the worst form of humor. So learn from my client's mistake. It's attractive to be entertaining, which means crafting texts that use specific language that's colorful, that's evocative, and even can be a bit humorous. However, don't take it too far, where it seems like you're trying to put on a show and you're simping for laughs. Don't simp for laughs. There's a name for guys who do that. They're called clowns. Although clowns aren't the only guys putting in too much effort, which we'll explain in the next commandment. Commandment 8, 1 text, 1 idea. An attractive text it's kind of like a good espresso. It's small, yet powerful. As such, limit each text you send to just 1 point, to 1 idea, to 1 thought. Following this commandment ensures that you don't shoehorn too much information into your text. Cramming several ideas or points into a text makes it harder to understand, and even worse, it makes you look like you're trying too hard. Like it or not, word count matters, and bigger ain't better. The more a guy writes, the lower his value is going to sink in the eyes of a woman. Keep your messages short by proofreading every text you send. Ruthlessly delete unnecessary words or phrases. If you're not sure if something's unnecessary, remove it and see if your text still makes sense. If it does, delete whatever phrase that's superfluous. When in doubt, cut. Be essentially Ernest Hemingway with a smartphone. Approach texting a woman like a sniper, not a machine gunner. 1 shot, 1 kill. Commandment 9, emojis are weak. Emojis, they're kind of like a limp handshake. They lack the firmness of conviction. Sure, they're colorful, they're easy, and they offer a shortcut for expression, but when it comes to attractive texting, emojis are the fast food of writing text. They're convenient, yet they're ultimately unsatisfying. Emojis are a crutch that can hobble a man's text game. They're symptoms of insecurity used by guys who aren't confident in their words. They're not confident that their words are enough to carry the weight of their meaning. A man who can articulate his thoughts and feelings with precision and flair, that sort of guy's like a rarity in today's day and age. And rarity breeds value. In the economy of attraction, a man who communicates with clarity and creativity without relying on cartoon symbols sets himself apart. There's also subtlety and nuance that's lost when you punctuate your sentences with these yellow symbols. Emojis are the canned laughter of text, trying to tell a woman when to smile or when to laugh. This subcommunicates to her that you don't trust your words alone to stir genuine emotion. Your text should exhibit your identity. It should not be just a parade of pictograms. So the next time you find your thumb hovering over that emoji keyboard, pause and ask yourself, can I say this better with words? Commandment 10, develop your fingerprint, then stamp it on every text you send. The true measure of good text game is how well and how quickly it transcends the screen. And I say that both figuratively and literally. In a figurative sense, that means how much do your texts leave a woman with a positive image and rousing emotions? In a literal sense, good text game translates to passion and attraction IRL, in real motherfucking life. And that all depends on how well each message you send is uniquely yours, so that she couldn't imagine it coming from anyone else. A quick way to gauge the effectiveness of a text is ask yourself, if she were to lose all her contacts, would she know instantly if a text came from you? If the answer isn't an emphatic yes, then there's work to be done. Not only should you revise the text in question, it's even more important that you learn how to text effectively. Since text is a byproduct of communication, if your texting skills need work, your conversation skills probably do as well. Thankfully, you can work on both by learning the techniques, templates, and communication patterns that define attractive communication. This is so important that I recently put together some of my best strategies, some of my best concepts into a short report, which I got right here, on this exact topic. In here, I included 2 more text commandments, and they're the text commandments on sexualizing a conversation that I couldn't put in this video because I didn't want to trigger any kind of content restrictions, but these are crucial to know. Along with that, I also lay out several of my favorite strategies, as well as dozens of exact texts that I pulled directly from my phone. So right now, you can actually download a copy of this report for free by going to www.datehottergirls.com/report. And I'm going to put a link to it somewhere in here. Just look around in the description or on the screen. You can never tell with these things. But just a heads up, I am planning on expanding this report into a full-blown book at some point. So I'm not going to keep it up forever. But as long as this video is still up, if you're watching this, then chances are it's still live. You can still download it for free. So head on over to www.datehottergirls.com/report, or click the link in the description or in the bio, whatever, and grab the report. Again, totally free. It's for guys like you, since you watch this video, and that tells me that you're committed to self-improvement and getting this part of your life handled. So that's all I got. Peace.